Let's jump right into this explainer. Imagine a fascinating dialogue between a highly scientifically minded youth and a spiritually grounded senior monk. We're going to eavesdrop on them today as they unpack the incredible intersection where modern metabolic science crashes into ancient Vedic wisdom. By the time we wrap up, you'll see fasting as way more than just the latest dietary trend. It's this massive, complex practice that weaves together medicine, dharma, and outright mysticism. So the youth kicks things off with the exact questions we're all probably asking. Is fasting actually for our physical health, or is it strictly for our soul? And practically speaking, how in the world do we safely fast today if we have chronic conditions like diabetes or heart disease? I mean, fasting is a massive global trend right now, so we really need to get this right. The monk comes back with this beautiful foundational thought. He says, fasting is medicine for the body and mantra for the soul. But he's really clear that true fasting isn't just jumping in recklessly. It absolutely has to be guided by three main pillars: ancient wisdom, scriptural guidelines, and, crucially, your actual medical health. Right, so the youth brings in the hard data, stuff from Harvard Health and the like. And it's true, moderate, time-restricted fasting does absolute wonders for the human body. We're talking about triggering autophagy. If you don't know what that is, it's literally your cells going in, repairing themselves, and clearing out the biological trash. It boosts insulin sensitivity, gives you this incredible mental clarity, and significantly drops oxidative stress. It's like a system reboot. But, and this is a big but, the youth rightly points out the medical caveats. Places like the Cleveland Clinic and WebMD warn us about the darker side of this trend. If you're diabetic or chronically ill, severe blood sugar swings can cause really dangerous hypoglycemia. Plus, fasting can actually trigger massive spikes in cortisol, your stress hormone. So, yeah, a practice that heals one person's body could literally put another person in the hospital. Pushing the science even further, the youth brings up extreme ascetic practices. You know, we've all heard those wild stories of saints, like the famous breatharian monk Prahlad Jani, who claimed to survive for decades without a single drop of water. But modern science tells us that extreme dry fasting leads straight to hypovolemic shock, total electrolyte collapse, and even fatal refeeding syndrome when you finally do eat. So how on earth do we reconcile that? Well, the monk completely validates those medical concerns. He doesn't dismiss the science at all. He explains that in Ayurveda, fasting is specifically meant to balance the body's doshas, or energies. It should literally never mean stopping your prescribed medications or destroying your physical form. As the monk puts it, the body is a temple. Fasting is supposed to strengthen your spiritual instrument, definitely not break it down. Elevating this whole conversation from pure physical metabolism to the concept of dharma, the monk breaks down the true spiritual core of the practice. See, the Sanskrit word for fasting is upavasa, which translates to living near God. It is absolutely not about the punishment of starvation. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita explicitly says that yoga is not for someone who eats too much or too little. It's really about stepping back from sensory indulgence so your mind can zero in entirely on the divine. And to explain exactly why what we eat matters so much to our spiritual state, the monk references this incredibly profound idea from the ancient Chandogya Upanishad. It says, "When food is eaten, the subtlest part rises up and is transformed into mind." Think about that. In the Vedic worldview, food doesn't just build your physical muscles. The subtle, energetic essence of whatever you consume literally becomes the fabric of your consciousness. Shankara's analysis breaks down exactly how this works in real life by categorizing food into three cosmic energies, or gunas. You've got sattvic foods, like fresh fruits and light grains, which bring about clarity and joy. Then there's rajasic foods, like super spicy dishes or heavy meats, which fuel restlessness and aggression. And finally, tamasic foods, which produce lethargy and a dull mind. Interestingly, tamasic foods actually include onions, garlic, and stale items. So you really are quite literally what you eat. Now, the youth is pretty surprised to learn that these dietary rules aren't just some blanket, one-size-fits-all moral code. They're actually highly functional. The monk brings up teachings from the Puri Shankaracharya, contrasting a meditating Brahmin who desperately needs that pure sattvic clarity with a historical kshatriya, or warrior. Believe it or not, those ancient warriors actually needed high levels of rajas, a sort of tiger-like aggression, to protect the nation in battle. So their specific diets were simply a matter of functional duty. Building on that, the monk introduces this mind-blowing concept from the Swaminarayan tradition known as Anna Shuddhi, or the purity of food. This is the idea that the spiritual hygiene and the actual intent of the cook are physically absorbed into the food itself, which is then directly transferred straight into the consumer's mind. Basically, A meal cooked in deep anger transfers agitation to you, while food cooked with genuine devotion transfers peace. And this perfectly explains why intent is the absolute most important thing in these traditions. The Bhagavad Gita actually states that the inner fire of digestion, called Vaishvanara, literally consumes the karmic reactions of food when it's offered to the divine with pure devotion. So sitting down and eating with humility, prayer, and real gratitude fundamentally alters the physical and karmic impact of your meal. It's a total game changer. All right, traditions and cosmic rhythms, aligning with the universe. Let's look at how we actually put all this ancient theory into practice. See, in the Vedic tradition, fasting is never just random. It's strictly governed by the lunar cycle. Different days of the moon's phase, specifically the 8th, 9th, 11th, and 14th days, carry completely different atmospheric and spiritual energies. And each of those days is paired with very specific types of fasting and devotion to match that exact energy. For sure, the most famous of these is Ekadashi, which hits on the 11th lunar day, twice a month. The monk drops some fascinating science here. On that 11th day, the atmospheric pressure is actually at its lowest. So, by avoiding grains and beans, which naturally absorb and retain a ton of water in your body, you prevent physical discomfort and bloating. This allows for deep physical detoxification and intense laser-like spiritual focus. Naturally, the youth remembers the medical risks we touched on earlier and asks about Nirjala Upavasa. That's the extreme discipline of fasting without even a single drop of water. They bring up those wild stories of Breatharian monks like Prahlad Jani, claiming to live on air alone. And this sparks a really intense debate between the hard limits of modern biological science and the mystical claims of these extreme ascetic disciplines. Then, taking a hard left turn from ascetic water fasting, the monk reveals the highly esoteric practices of the tantrics. The tantric path sometimes actually uses the 5 M's, or panchamakara, which are alcohol, meat, fish, grain, and sexual union. But get this, the goal isn't just indulgence. It's a radical method meant to deliberately shatter the ego's dualities. It's about realizing that the supreme reality exists entirely beyond our petty human concepts of what is clean or unclean. But hold on, there is a super vital distinction to make right here. The left-hand path, or Vamachara, involves the literal, physical consumption of these taboo elements in ritual feasts. However, the right-hand path, Dakshinachara, uses those exact same elements purely as internal metaphors. They use them as symbols for deep meditation to raise Kundalini energy without ever engaging in the physical acts themselves. Jumping back to the aesthetics, the monk points to incredible exemplars like Swami Karpatriji, who displayed total renunciation, and Dadaguru, who lived entirely on water just to symbolize absolute divine surrender. These extreme examples remind the youth that fasting, at its absolute highest level, has absolutely nothing to do with diet or metabolism anymore. It becomes a living, breathing mirror of ultimate faith, discipline, and sheer energetic mastery. So, what's the bridge between everyday fasting and these wild extremes? It's sankalpa, or the sheer power of intention. Whether a saint is holding a single cup of water, or you, as a householder, are breaking a simple fruit fast, the monk teaches that this deeply rooted intention transforms a mundane physical act into an incredibly powerful spiritual vow. It literally alters how your body responds to its environment. Here's the absolute crucial takeaway. While saints and tantrics show us the extreme outer edges of human potential, true dharma for the average person, the householder, requires moderation. The goal is absolutely never self-harm. The true goal is to ensure your body remains a fit, healthy, and medically safe instrument so you can actually pursue deeper spiritual inquiry. The monk beautifully wraps up their dialogue by reminding us that fasting is not a punishment. Not at all. It is an alignment. Each fast is a doorway, he says. Ekadashi opens devotion to Vishnu, the 9 days of Navaratri open inner strength through Shakti, and fasting on Mondays, or Somwar, opens surrender to Shiva. It's simply about syncing up our internal bodily rhythms with the massive cosmic rhythms of the universe. So after unpacking everything the youth and the monk discussed, I want to leave you with this final thought. How will you balance your physical and spiritual diet moving forward? How are you going to integrate the undeniable, proven benefits of modern metabolic science with the profound, consciousness-altering wisdom of the ancients in your own daily life? Take a moment to really reflect on that. Keep seeking, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.